6 teams for 2 spots. Who's playing for an ACC championship next weekend?
You are Locked On ACC, your daily podcast on the Atlantic Coast Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into Locked On ACC. I'm Jackson Holzer, the host of Locked On Syracuse, and thank you for making Locked On ACC your first listen of every single day here on the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcasting network. It's your team every day. And of course, we are always free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And on today's show, we are previewing the final weekend of regular season college football for 2025. We'll go over all the rivalry games in the ACC for this week. We'll also go over all the teams that still technically have a chance at playing next weekend in the ACC Championship and what those teams have to do to reach the ACC title game, and ultimately, who's actually going to be representing the conference next weekend. All that and more coming up here on today's edition of Locked On ACC. First and foremost, I hope everyone had a wonderful Thanksgiving, spent time with friends and family, enjoyed some good food, enjoyed some good football. I hope you're now also taking advantage of Black Friday and all the deals that are going on. Cyber Monday as well coming up. I know that that's big as well for some people. Let's dive into some ACC action. You ready for it? Sure, you guys might be aware by now, but in case you're not, there are 6 teams that are mathematically alive to play next weekend in Charlotte for the ACC Championship. Those 6 teams are, and I'm doing this in alphabetical order, not necessarily the odds of them actually reaching the conference title game: Duke, Georgia Tech, Miami, Pitt, SMU, and Virginia. Of that group, there are 2 teams that have the best case scenario. The scenario that any team wants, which is being able to control its own destiny. Of course, I'm talking about win and you're in. Those 2 teams, where all they have to do is win their game this weekend, and they will be playing next weekend in the conference championship, are Virginia and SMU. First up, let's go with Virginia. They are hosting Virginia Tech as the 18th ranked team in the country this Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern. Virginia Tech has owned this rivalry, absolutely owned it. They have won 19 of the past 20 matchups, but this year could be 20 of the past 22, because Virginia enters this game obviously as a pretty good team. All they have to do is win, and they're in the ACC Championship. They've had a very nice season, despite my doubts about them. They're here, and that's a credit to the season that they have had. Virginia Tech, on the other hand, well, they may be a pretty good team next year. They'll have James Franklin as their head coach. They're already getting a lot of victories on the recruiting trail. I do think that Virginia Tech, at minimum next year, is going to be a bowl team. Thing is about Virginia Tech this time around, though, is that James Franklin is not yet their head coach, and they're already not bowl eligible this season. FanDuel has Virginia as 8.5-point favorites. Virginia has everything on the line. Virginia Tech trying to play spoiler, but at the end of the day, Virginia comes into this game with a top 5 offense in the ACC. Meanwhile, Virginia Tech, not exactly the greatest defense, bottom 5 in the conference. Give me Virginia to hold serve at home and reach the ACC title game. They beat their rival Virginia Tech 31-20. Comment your thoughts right now in the comment section below. You agree with me that Virginia is going to hold their own and they're going to beat Virginia Tech? Or is Virginia Tech going to play spoiler, since, of course, this is rivalry weekend and anything can happen? Next up, SMU, number 21 in the country, against Cal, going on the road Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern. SMU is in its second season in the ACC. and SMU can reach the ACC Championship game for the second consecutive season. They're pretty big road favorites, 13.5 points last time I checked over on FanDuel. That being said, Cal, they are a sneaky bunch. They are 6-5, so they are bowl eligible and they should be respected. And also, you have to be careful with any team that is traveling to the West Coast. It can affect every team differently. We saw specifically last year as a big example with Miami. Granted, they won at Cal, but Miami had to stage a miracle comeback to beat Cal in a West Coast game. We saw Florida State as a pretty big favorite this year go on the road at Cal, and well, all right, it wasn't Cal, it was Stanford, and they lost that game. They should not have lost that game, but you know what? They did. So that being said, Cal's offense, not exactly great. Meanwhile, SMU, they have only given up 20-plus points just twice in conference play this season. Remember earlier in the year, we were talking about SMU and how porous their defense was? Well, it seems like they have corrected it because their defense has been pretty good in conference play. I'm going to go SMU to win this game 35-17. So because I am picking Virginia and because I am picking SMU, and both teams are winning in the ACC, guess what, folks? My official prediction for what is going to happen this weekend is that both teams, who all they have to do is win and they're in the conference title, are both going to win. Therefore, your ACC championship next weekend will be Virginia versus SMU. I'm sure that was on all of your bingo cards heading into the season, right? Remember, we were in the preseason and the off season and all that stuff. We were going over our predictions and some of the best teams in the conference. SMU isn't necessarily the biggest surprise if they were to reach the conference title game because they were good last year, and most of us thought they'd be a top 5 team in the conference. Virginia, quite frankly, has come out of nowhere. Not many people expected that this Virginia team was going to be very good. Yeah, maybe they'd reach a bowl, but certainly not playing for an ACC title. Congratulations to that team. Not yet, but for the fact that they're here and they have a chance to get there, deserves some praise. As far as what I think will happen in that matchup, if it were to occur, well, tune in next week when we break down the matchup, which I'm predicting to be SMU and Virginia. Comment your thoughts in the comments section below. Coming up, if for whatever reason those teams slip up, there are still 4 teams in the ACC with a mathematical chance at getting in the conference championship next weekend. Which teams have the best shot at doing so? Find out next on Locked On ACC. The holidays always feel a little easier when you already know the perfect gift, and Omaha Steaks makes it almost too simple. Whether you're treating yourself this season or sending something memorable to family and friends, Omaha Steaks delivers handcrafted perfection right to their door. And this week is the best time to jump in because their cyber sale is here and the deals are huge. And honestly, it's the kind of gift that brings people together, and you don't need to guess anyone's size. Save big on unforgettable gifts with Omaha Steaks. Visit omahasteaks.com for 50% off site-wide and an extra 20% off select favorites during their cyber sale. And for an additional $35 off, use promo code COLLEGE at checkout. That's omahasteaks.com, promo code COLLEGE. Terms apply. See site for details. If not Virginia, if not SMU, the team in the ACC with the best odds at reaching the conference title game is the Pitt Panthers. Here's why. Because all Pitt needs to do is win their matchup, which we'll get to in just a moment, and they need one of Virginia or SMU to lose. So all Pitt has to do is take care of business, get a little bit of help, just one of those teams to slip up. And next thing you know, Pitt is in the ACC Championship. And if they win the conference championship, they are in the college football playoff with an automatic bid. Sound easy enough? Well, Not so fast. The Pitt Panthers are at home Saturday at noon Eastern. They come into the game ranked 22nd in the nation. Problem is they're going up against a team ranked 12th in the nation, the Miami Hurricanes. Miami, by the way, is also a team that is playing for a chance at reaching the ACC Championship. They need a lot of help, and it starts by potentially beating the Pitt Panthers. This game is fascinating because Miami is not just seeking a chance at playing in the ACC Championship. That would be cool for Miami, and it might be necessary for Miami because what they're really playing for is the college football playoff. They come in ranked 12th. Now, the college football playoff does take 12 teams, so on the surface, you would think, okay, they're sitting at 12. All they need to do is just win, stay where they're at, and they're good. Not exactly. Because of the automatic bids. And there will be, if it's not Miami, 2 teams below them that get automatic bids, meaning Miami will be on the outside looking in for the college football playoff for the second consecutive season, since the playoff, of course, expanded to 12 teams. They need to put up some style points. They need to have some teams lose ahead of them. And quite frankly, they might need to blow out Pitt, which does not seem like it would be on the table. I do think Miami is going to win this game. However, Pitt, did you catch the game last weekend against Georgia Tech? Did you? They crushed them. I know Georgia Tech, to their credit, they battled. Then they somewhat made it a game. But it was too little too late. However, Pitt was going up against Georgia Tech's defense. Georgia Tech's defense, we'll get to in a moment here. They ain't exactly that good. Miami's defense has been pretty stout all year. That's been the most consistent unit of the two between offense and defense this entire season for this team. And if for whatever reason the conditions are not exactly favorable from a team coming from South Florida, well, you know what their formula is anyway, which is play good defense and run the football. And guess what? Playing good defense and running the football can translate in any condition. So we'll see what happens. Would it surprise me if Pitt won this game? Absolutely not. That being said, I am taking the Miami Hurricanes to win. A little bit low scoring, 24-20. Now, let's get to 2 more teams here that need a lot of help to reach the college football, or not the college football playoff. I mean, that's certainly on the table, but the ACC Championship game next weekend. Georgia Tech and Duke. Also Miami, but we just talked about them. If you want to know exactly how Georgia Tech and Duke can reach the ACC Championship game, here's what you can do. Since we don't have all the time here on this podcast to really break everything down for you all, I would look up ACC tiebreakers on the official ACC website, and it would break it down for you. So if you are a Duke fan, if you are a Georgia Tech fan, and if by now you don't exactly know how your team can reach the ACC title, all you got to do is go to acc.com, look up the tiebreakers. They're right there laid out for you. They need a lot to break their way. Let's start with Georgia Tech, who, by the way, is not even playing a conference game this weekend. They're at home. They're 23rd in the country. Rivalry matchup Friday at 3:30 p.m. Eastern. That means it is today, this afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, against number 4, Georgia. Now, here's the funny thing about Georgia Tech. So they are 9-2. In any other conference, 9-2, they would be ranked higher than where they're at right now, currently sitting at 23. At 23, it's kind of hard to fathom that they would move up the necessary spots it would take to secure an at-large bid in the college football playoff. But say they do win this game. It would be very similar to what is happening right now with the Notre Dame and Miami debate. Because Georgia Tech would be 10-2 to end the season with a win over Georgia, who would also be 10-2. Just food for thought. Having said that, Georgia Tech's defense, particularly in the last 3 games, has apparently been optional. It's been optional. They can decide to play defense whenever they feel like it down there. They can do it whenever they want. Maybe this would be a good weekend for them to play defense because in the last 3 games, Georgia Tech has allowed 48, 34, and 42 points. No wonder why they went from the team that looked like they were going to be the representative from the ACC in the college football playoff to now well on the outside looking in. And yeah, they could have a very successful season. I mean, it already has been a successful season, but not quite the season that you were truly, truly hoping for. Do I think they're going to pull off this upset against Georgia? As we saw last year, it's possible. They can hang with this Georgia team. I just don't think their defense is going to get enough stops. I'm going to pick Georgia to win 38-31. Comment your thoughts in the comments section below. Finally, let's get to Wake Forest against Duke Saturday at 3:30 p.m. Eastern. Duke is a 1.5-point favorite over on FanDuel. Even the folks who get paid to do the absolute best in trying to predict these games, they can't figure out what's going to happen in this game. Does anyone truly know what is going to happen in Wake Forest and Duke? Seriously, do you know? Comment your thoughts right now in the comments section below because let me summarize it for you, okay? You have the Wake Forest offense, not very good. You have the Duke defense, not very good. You have the Wake Forest defense. Well, they're good. And we know that the Duke offense is good as well when they're not turning the ball over. So it's strength on strength, weakness on weakness. And so my rule of thumb, and I've said it before here on this podcast, and I will say it again, when I don't necessarily feel like I have a good read on a game, when it's a matchup like this, when you have a strength on strength and a weakness on weakness, I tend to just naturally lean towards the home team. So I am going to pick Duke 27-24. Duke with a win and a bunch of help. Well, maybe they somehow get to Charlotte. They need a lot, but it is possible. You can look it up for yourself. Comment your thoughts in the comments section below. Who do you have ultimately playing in the ACC Championship next weekend? Now, coming up, we'll go over the rest of the rivalry games on this week's slate, so stick with me here on Locked On ACC. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of a game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who's going to score next to fourth quarter comebacks. And plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. And right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. I hope you folks took my advice last weekend, which is bet Notre Dame money line with $5 to beat Syracuse, because if you did and you were a new customer, you got $300 in bonus bets, and you also got to watch Syracuse, which is my team, lose a game 70-7. So this weekend, with Notre Dame playing Stanford, if you're a new customer, same deal. $5 on the money line, assuming Notre Dame wins, which they most likely will, $300 in bonus bets. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. It's rivalry weekend. Now, we've already gone over some of the rivalry games here on Locked On ACC, but those games have a lot of stakes. You got Virginia Tech, obviously. That's the big one. You know, when Virginia wins that game, they're in. the ACC Championship, but there's still plenty more rivalry games that we got to go over. Florida State and Florida, Saturday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern. Fun fact about Florida State, and I'm sure the Florida State fans may know this, but maybe they don't. Maybe you don't. If you don't really follow Florida State, and that's okay. You ready for this fact? Florida State has not won a road game since the end of the 2023 season. That was in the Swamp. Remember that one? End of the 2023 season. That is the last time that Florida State won a true road game. In the Swamp. Incredible how it's basically been 2 years. Florida State, they are playing to be bowl eligible, so there is something to play for this team. Not that I think many Florida State fans care about going 6-6 and making a bowl. Meanwhile, Florida, they're just praying that Lane Kiffin picks them, which he probably won't. He's probably going to go to LSU or stay with Ole Miss. Sorry, Florida. Oh, by the way, you're not going to get Eli Drinkwitz either. He just got an extension with Missouri. Yeah, you fired Billy Napier, but you might hire the next Billy Napier for Florida Gators. For those that don't know, that is my second favorite team. I grew up a Florida Gators fan before I went to Syracuse. Fun times. Florida State, on the other hand, I mean, look, they're bringing back Mike Norvell, and they can sit here and they can tell us that we have all the confidence in the world in Mike Norvell, and he's going to fix it, and he's going to turn around. We know the real reason why Florida State is bringing back Mike Norvell. It's because of the money. They can't fire him because of the money. The buyout is just too much. They're not going to tell it like it is because nobody is actually going to say that publicly, but that is the truth. So this matchup, while it is a big rivalry on paper, there really isn't much juice to it. I honestly wish they didn't have to pick a winner because no matter what, I'm going to sound like an idiot. I can't believe you took the Florida Gators to win a game. I can't believe you picked Florida State to win a road game for the first time in 2 years. See what I'm saying? No matter what, you're kind of screwed picking this game. But you know what? I'm going to pick it anyway. I don't mind looking like an idiot. 2017 Florida. Next up, Clemson, South Carolina, Saturday at noon Eastern. Before the season, you would have probably thought that this game would have a lot of stakes attached to it. Clemson obviously had a ton of preseason hype, preseason top 5 team in America. We thought that Clemson could be back this year as one of the premier programs in all of college football. Yeah, last year was good and they were in the college football playoff, but no, this was supposed to be the year for Clemson where they became what they were a few years ago. One of the elite teams in college football with a legitimate chance at winning a national championship, not just sneaking in to a college football playoff and losing in the first round. With South Carolina, well, preseason, myself as a Jets fan was really intently looking at them because they have a quarterback in Lenora Sellers, and a lot of people thought that Lenora Sellers by the end of the year could be considered the number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft. Fast forward, well, that's not exactly what happened. Clemson isn't necessarily a bad team. They are bowl eligible, but they have fallen well short of expectations, which we have covered extensively here on Locked On ACC. And South Carolina, I don't know. They're just flat. Lenora Sellers has regressed this season. He is not the guy he was last year. He's not the guy we thought he could be for this year. And he certainly is not going to be the number 1 overall pick in the upcoming NFL draft. In fact, it's more likely that Lenora Sellers probably transfers out of the program and goes to another team to try to resurrect his career. Hint, hint, it might be with the Miami Hurricanes. because Miami might be looking for a quarterback. I'm going to take Clemson to win this game 27-20. They end the regular season on a high note. Next up, you got Kentucky against Louisville, Saturday at noon Eastern. Louisville, yucky, no. Oh my goodness, what was last week's debacle? Yeah, I know you didn't have Miller Moss. Awful. The Louisville Cardinals were 7-1. Had everything to play for. They had beaten Miami a couple of weeks prior. And Louisville, well, since have lost 3 straight. And in this game, all they're playing for is either their 8th regular season win or end the season on a 4-game losing streak. Who's going to be the quarterback this weekend for Louisville? At the time of this recording, we have no idea. Miller Moss, he may or may not play, according to Jeff Brom. And Jeff Brom, the head coach, also said we could see multiple quarterbacks this weekend. So who knows? Kentucky, 5-6. They need to win to become bowl eligible. And I think that they are going to beat Louisville this weekend. I got Kentucky on the road winning 24-20. North Carolina and NC State this Saturday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. NC State is bowl eligible at 6-5. UNC, they are not bowl eligible this season. But to their credit, they have gotten better over the course of the year. Too little, too late, but they're certainly better now there than when they were first game of the year, when they just dropped a massive egg, whatever, against TCU. So they've come a long way. They've picked up some wins. They've looked more respectable in recent weeks. It's a credit to them. We'll see if they can develop that, keep up the momentum potentially for next season. I don't know. We'll see. Could this be Dave Doeren's final game coaching NC State? Will it? He's been there for a long, long time. He has already said he doesn't want to retire, but is NC State going to let him go anyway? This matchup could have a pretty big role in determining that, actually. These schools don't like each other. And if NC State, who is at home, even though they are bowl eligible, if they lose to an inferior North Carolina team, it might be enough. It might already be enough to let go of Dave Doeren. But I don't think that's necessarily going to happen. I don't know if this is going to be Dave Doeren's final year, but what I do think is that NC State is going to win this game by a final score of 28-17. 2 more games to talk about here on Locked On ACC. You got number 9, Notre Dame, going on the road, playing Stanford Saturday at 10:30 p.m. Eastern. Notre Dame just won a football game over Syracuse, 70-7. And I honestly think if Notre Dame had really tried, if they had left in their starters for the entire game, easily would have gone over 100. Easily. They might have gotten to like 125. It might have been, so it's already bad 70-7. Could you imagine maybe like 125-0? That legitimately was on the table. This week, they're going on the road. They're playing Stanford. Yeah, I know it's a rivalry. Notre Dame is going to win the game by a lot of points. And finally, this is a football game. Somebody does have to win it, so I guess we can crown this week's winner of Somebody Has to Win Bowl. You could say that the loser of this game will get the number 1 overall pick in the college football recruiting draft. You got Syracuse hosting Boston College. 3 p.m. Eastern. Here's what you need to know about this game. As someone who covers Syracuse for Locked On Syracuse, the Orange are starting a walk-on, true freshman, lacrosse player at quarterback, Joe Filardi, again. Again. It is so insane that you have Miami fans online actually questioning whether or not Fran Brown is trying to stick it to Miami. Because instead of playing Ricky Collins, who is just a terrible backup, but still a backup, he is playing Joe Filardi, who is a walk-on lacrosse player. Now, I wouldn't necessarily start Ricky Collins either in this game. I laid out on Locked On Syracuse exactly what my plan would have been for this weekend weeks ago. Fran Brown said, that's dumb. Let's keep going with the lacrosse player. He can keep going with the lacrosse player all he wants. I don't think it's going to go very well. Boston College has actually been somewhat competitive in games. They were competitive against Notre Dame, a team that beat Syracuse 70-7 last week. Boston College is going to win this game on the road by a final score of 31-13. And so therefore, Syracuse would earn themselves the title as the worst team in the ACC for this season. And in my opinion, post Steve Angeli injury, the worst team in Power Conference football. Congratulations to my very own Syracuse Orange. I love them so much. Now, as far as what's coming up on Locked On ACC, your next episode is going to be with the regular hosts, Alex Dano and Kenton Gibbs. You will see me next Friday when we preview the conference championship game. Folks, thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all so much for listening. If you like this podcast, be sure to hit that like button. If you really enjoy the podcast, be sure to hit subscribe. Tell all your friends about Locked On ACC. We'll see you all again soon.